I think this is another opportunity for me to bring in the synergy for the culture of peace. And I think the Summer of Peace, starting in June and now ending next week, had been wonderful to build that momentum. And that is what we do. What we call, and the President has called also today, the program of action also calls it the Global Movement for Culture of Peace. And I think that's very important, to create that movement.
Wonderful, Ambassador Chowdhury. Thank you, Ambassador Chowdhury, other distinguished guests, and peace builders around the world, particularly to my friends in sub-Saharan Africa. I want to just say why this subject, culture peace, is really dear and personal to me is because I lived in Sierra Leone 4 years before the war in small villages. And I got to go back during the war and then after the war and to see the impact of the arms trade and the culture of violence on my loved ones. But I also got to work with peace builders in Sierra Leone, Liberia, and other parts of sub-Saharan Africa. I met some of the most inspiring people who were doing incredible work that the world didn't know about. And I just thought we really needed to bring a focus to the positive transformation that's happening in difficult places. And so the Summer of Peace, when invited to head up the Summer of Peace, I was thrilled because what we were going to do is to acknowledge and celebrate the peace builders around the world, and then to invite involvement. As Rick Alphick would say, we were going to inspire, inform, and then involve people around the world. From the inner to the international, and across, as Avon would say, multiple pathways and sectors of society. Now, we had over a year and a half leading up to this, we had different summits, telesummits, and one of them was youth. Generation Waking Up was part of it, where we went around the world 24 hours, on the hour, every hour, interviewing young peace builders who were doing phenomenal work. From New Zealand to Australia, Japan, and Cambodia, where they're addressing the after effects of genocide. In Tanzania, South Africa, Jerusalem, and all around the world. And these peace builders, it's like a wave of peace, like International Day of Peace going around the world. Just these inspiring stories of young people saying, yes, we can and we will. So we were bringing attention to these peace builders there. And then we also then trained hundreds of peace ambassadors in over 40 countries with the idea that they would be involved in the Summer of Peace. And many of them in Kathmandu and Tanzania and in the Middle East, and also in Oakland, where there's a group of 30 peace ambassadors who have the mayor of Oakland on the International Day of Peace ready to commit itself to being an international city of peace. And so these peace builders, and then Summer of Peace was informed by a wisdom council, which include Ambassador Chowdhury, Avon Madison, James Adee, and others. It was a co-creation of many partner groups, like the Culture of Peace Initiative, the Pathways to Peace, Alliance for Peace Building, the Peace Alliance, Peace Day TV, National Peace Academy. The list goes on and on. Gaiaphil Project, co-sponsors like the Global Movement of Culture of Peace. Together, we created a framework, and the framework was where people could share what it is that they're doing, both on the Culture of Peace Initiative side, Summer Peace side, other side, the 11 Days of Global Unity, what you're doing for peace, and then also calls to action. So this is what you can do. And someone earlier had said, she felt isolated in doing her peace work. And we heard this throughout the Summer of Peace, people saying, I have felt so isolated. But now I realize I'm part of a larger community. And together we're part of something bigger. The other part of the Summer of Peace has been a telesummit, where over the entire summer we interviewed over 120 peace builders, and it's still going on, from multiple different pathways and sectors of society, looking at forgiveness, nonviolence, education, communication, science, business, arts and culture, justice, healing cultural wounds, military, and then politics and governance. And throughout this, what we witness is that there is a culture of peace emerging from the hearts, minds, and souls of people around the world. It's happening in multiple sectors of society, and it's happening in everyone's own unique gifts and own unique ways. For example, leading scientists have proven now that humans are hardwired for compassion and love. Scientists are also there's several themes that came out, like scientists are saying we're interconnected on a quantum field of consciousness, which is the same thing that a yoga monk said 2 days later, that a Peruvian shaman said days later, that an economist later said. So we're seeing people are saying the same thing. We're interconnected, we're interdependent. We also have had really heartbreaking stories, such as Azim Kamisa, who lost his only son to senseless gang violence. And after 40 days of grieving, his spiritual teacher told him, it's time to stop grieving and to live, promote peace in your son's name. And Azim Kamisa has touched millions of people on how to forgive and also how to reduce violence. And for me, this is powerful because I've seen this in sub-Saharan Africa. Kimmy Weeks was 9 years old, and they thought he was dead in a refugee camp, threw his body onto a mass grave, and when his mother found him, he looked into her eyes, and that moment, he made a commitment to God that I will dedicate my life to helping children around the world to avoid the situation. Kimmy Weeks later worked with Search for Common Ground and created a radio program in Liberia called Golden Kids News that has been replicated in over 20 countries around the world, touching millions of people, giving children a voice. And what this shows me is that the spirit of peace in humanity, the human spirit, no matter how difficult the crisis will be, will rise up and it will express itself in its own way. And all we have to do is tap into our humanity, listen to that voice, and let it sing through us. And that we all become instruments of peace. And together we're creating a global symphony. And believe me, the crises are rising. And to me, I have hope because I know, I've seen it. We can rise above it. Some other things that have come through with the Summer of Peace. Been the director of Amnesty International, Washington, D.C., and the Institute of Nordic Science in California, made an announcement to the indigenous elders, mainly from the Americas, but also other parts of the world who were there, a declaration of commitment to indigenous peoples. And this had 4 points. This is critical. The 4 points were: we must apologize for the atrocities committed to indigenous peoples around the world. Particularly the United States. I mean, you think about how the United States was built. It was built on indigenous peoples. We must take responsibility for our actions. We must seek reconciliation. And we also must seek collaboration. Many peace builders in South Africa and other parts of the world say we cannot really move forward until we look back truthfully, honestly to what's happened in the past and we reconcile it. It is time for the world to step forward in declaration of commitment to indigenous people. You can sign it yourself, declarationofcommitment.com. That's declarationofcommitment.com. And together, because what the other aspect of this declaration acknowledges, we're in a time where we need profound wisdom. Avon said the word wisdom over and over again, even though I think Avon basically embodies wisdom, is we need wisdom from our indigenous elders. We need the wisdom coming from the scientific community. We need the wisdom that's coming out from all sectors of society to come together to address the crises that we're facing and together co-create a culture of peace. Thank you.